control the vertigo.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic. We're your host Mark. Today we're covering a series from the 90s, an anthology series, a horror anthology series. It's aired on American TV and as it aired in other places in the world. It's called Ghost Stories. It originally ran, I think, to 44 episodes, or separate stories in all, from the 28th of September 1997 until the 8th of June 1998. It had a bit of a hiatus around the sort of Christmas period, I think. So it aired up until, I mean, it was one season, but it aired up until the 24th of November and then went quiet for quite a while until the 19th of January, where it then proceeded. Now, some of the episodes, quite a lot of the episodes were shown in pairs, but then some was shown individually, which is why it's kind of hard to say, is it a number of episodes? I'll just say a number of stories. 44, as I say. And it aired on the Fox Family channel. So I'm feeling it was probably going to be a little bloodless compared to the like of, say, I don't know, Tales from the Crypt or something, or Tales from the Dark Side. And this one was all sort of set up a mood rather than direct horror. Sorry, I'm talking about the first episode. The first episode was called Backward, directed by Jerry Fine. Couple of writers. I'm not going to that. Not a big cast, a very small cast. So I imagine this is quite a low budget production. Though I've only watched this one, so I'm kind of extrapolating the look and feel. They were really going for mood. Interestingly, the lead woman in it, who plays the head of this new basically mental asylum, mental institution called Dr. Ryan. It's interesting how they had her dressed and her hair was done. She was clearly kind of looking a lot like Scully. I think they were going for that kind of vibe. And there was also a lot of moody lighting, shadows, not torches, but lights going into dark places. And they were going for effect. A very short story. It was 20 odd minutes. Not even 25 minutes, very short, and I imagine all of the segments are this short, so it's got to get in and out fairly quickly, so that was a good thing about it. I thought this one was okay. A woman turns up at an institution, is kind of a little obsessed with trying to, or she's really focused, I should say, trying to get getting to a certain standard so that they get a grant, which is equally funded by the city, so she can bring up the standards of the institution way faster. She does interview one patient at one point, and he's, the dialogue's a bit silly, and the sort of interactions are a bit silly, but that's the nature of it. But at one point, she's working late, and we see she's quite a brusque. One of the night watchmen, or one of the I don't know what, people that look after the institution in terms of security, I guess, just tries to make some chit chat about stuff with her, and she sort of says, I'd really like to talk about this, but right now I've got this grant to sort out, and that gives us an insight into her personality and also her focus. And now she's arrived, but she sees this woman who she kind of says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And the woman backs away Unfortunately, there's a little sort of mismatch between what's shown and the script here, because we can clearly see through the woman somewhat. She's somewhat transparent, but the Dr. Ryan, the main character, she doesn't react like she's a ghost. She acts like she's a person. So I think there was a mismatch between the special effects and the script. And she kind of heads off back down this corridor. Dr. Ryan takes chase. And then she kind of goes into the depths of this place. And there's this weird tunnel full of chained up patients, men and women. And then she sees the woman who's got a very white shock of hair and a kind of red purpley dress. Or slightly a dark red. I don't know, like magenta. No, that's not the right colour. It's a dark red dress. Sort of being chased by what looks like orderlies, but dressed in odd clothes, saying, "We'll get you, Alice Beecher." And this is observed by Dr. Ryan, who cannot work it out. I think she realises it's not normal, and these aren't. Basically, she just goes down to the same catacombs with an assistant the next day, but there's nothing there. And then she kind of starts to get obsessed. She sort of says, "I want to see all the case files of all the women that have ever been institutionalised here." And then she remembers the name Alice Beecher. Anyway, she finds the records and kind of sees what's happening. And so what happened to him when she finds out she was institutionalised and with hysteria, or they called it female dementia in this, but I think it was hysteria in reality. Back in those times, women were diagnosed with hysteria for some reason. And she also finds that she was subjected to cold water treatments as part of her treatment, and she died on the operating table when they were removing her ovaries. And then the next time we come back in, or I think she falls asleep, she kind of, in a dream, it turns out she is Alice Beecher, and she's getting treatments, and she gets strapped to an operating table to have her ovaries removed, and she's saying, "You're going to kill me," and all this. He goes, No, Alice, once this is over, you don't want to be institutionalized, you'll be allowed back into society. And then she wakes up, and in fact, her assistant's waking her up. Also, there are bits in it where the assistant's going, "We got this grant to sort out," while she's getting obsessed with these patient notes. And she said, yes. In the morning, it's all this. And essentially, as part of the sort of vision or night or dream or whatever it is, she does see a place where Alice Beecher stows like a notebook. And she goes down in the catacombs, pulls away part of the wall and finds the notebook, and then reads something out, which is a really nice little poem, actually. Really well-written little poem about how she is, and all the only thing she was going to leave behind is this poem kind of thing. I quite like that. Yeah, it was okay. It was bloodless, as I say. It wasn't sweary, it wasn't bloody, there was no gratuity of any kind. It was just mood. That was what they were focusing on. Didn't mind it. It wasn't the best thing ever, and I'm not particularly surprised I haven't heard of it before, because it's probably fairly bloodless. And they were kind of going for a bit of a Twilight Zone in terms of length, and also it had opening narration by Rip Torn. Now, the first segment, which I think is repeated in other stories, they use the same intro. So the text was kind of, bits of it reminded me of the opening chapter of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I felt like they were paraphrasing it. The final phrase, I'll give you an example, is, "Come with me into the very cradle of darkness, where those who dwell alone." And the final lines of The Haunting of the Hill House is, "Whatever walks there walks alone." So it kind of reminded me of that. Quite liked it. It was all right. And it's ripped on the sort of elderly sort of action and kind of comedy as he got older actor. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, this has available on DVD as well. As I say, 44 episodes. Quite considerable. Quite a lot of episodes for what is a one-season show. Quite surprised it got commissioned for this many episodes cold. But yeah, interesting. And quite interesting find, I think, because it's not something I've ever heard of, but it kind of came. I read a lot about anthology stuff, and I got kind of encountered someone talking about this, so I looked it up and found out about this one. So yes, interesting one. I'm gonna call it a day there, but before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to